are encouraged.
Can we get a cup of coffee in here, please?
Damn good coffee and hot.
My dog is your mind's best friend.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with the Dog. You make me laugh.
You know what? We forgot to turn the mixer back. The mixer back up. Good morning, folks. Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. I don't know. Doesn't feel like April yet. It still feels a little wintry here. Anyway, hope you're having a beautiful day wherever you are. Seem to have lost GD. Maybe his imaginary wife is mad at the second video that AI put out about him, which is far more complimentary than the first. But hey, whatever. Maybe he's lost in an airport with Willie. Maybe, or maybe he's getting a colonoscopy in an airport with Willie. Oh, he's here now. Well, wishful thinking. I don't know. I've never gotten a colonoscopy in an airport, but it might be fun. Well, I've never gotten a colonoscopy, to be honest with you. If I'm going to come clean here, and I mean, completely clean, I've never experienced a colonoscopy. Nobody's getting near this ass until after I'm dead, and then they find, wow, look at all the ass cancer this guy had. I've never seen such a cluster of ass cancer in one human being before, because no colonoscopy. I don't go to doctors. As I try to explain my position on this, my healthcare platform, I totally respect doctors' opinions and all that stuff. Here's my thing. When I was a young man, and not really part of a family, I was still the prodigal son. My father went to a doctor, and that was the last time he had any kind of free life. He went to a doctor. Doctor found that he had some issues with his heart, and they were going to do a bypass. And then they did the bypass, and then he had a heart attack, and then he had lung cancer, and then strokes, and it was like the last 5 or 6 years of his life spent in hospitals dealing with doctors. And I thought, well, you know what? If you don't go to the doctor, you would have just dropped dead and wouldn't have to suffer like that. So that's where my my I don't know, my outlook on going to doctors is. Now, I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't go to doctors. Go to doctors. Do what your heart tells you to do, what your mind tells you to do. I'm not anti-science, anti-doctor. I worked with doctors. I respect doctors. I just don't want them touching me, or the insurance companies getting their mitts on me to say, let's find out what else we can bill this guy about. This show, I'm thinking of changing the name of the show to Maddie and the No Shows. We'll see who doesn't show today. I think I'm actually, I don't know. Should I say optimistic about if I say that, I'm probably jinxing it, right? But we are expecting Red Hot Llama, who is kind of semi attached to a soda brand, or as they would say in the Southwest or southern part of the United States, pop brand. Uh, I don't know what else they call it, pop and soda. Anyway, and the second hour we're going to talk Nazis. Well, we'll talk a little more Nazis, German history, World War II history, just history in general, with an author named James Cloud. So I would bet money. I would go to my bookie right now and bet money that James Cloud will be here. Interesting enough, seems to be. I don't know. Maybe there's a conspiracy theory around this show that a lot of people seem to have emergency room, uh, sudden emergency. They have to take a family member to the emergency room when they're supposed to show up on this show, which was the case yesterday, or at least what the email said. But it's curious that they can't send an email to say, "I'm sorry, I have an emergency at home. I'm going to have to miss the show. My, apologies or whatever." Excuse me. It takes about 3 seconds, but they can have plenty of time. The minute I say, "What happened to you today?" They're still in the emergency room, supposedly, to write back, "I'm in the emergency room with such and such, and sorry about that." It's funny if I reach out to them and say, "What happened to you?" They have time to say what happened to them, but they don't have the forethought to say, "You know what? I'm supposed to be on a show. Maybe I should let them know I'm not going to be there." Funny though, it happens to so many people. I'm wondering if we are causing health problems within the family members of the guests that book on the show. Sudden, it almost seems to happen like at least twice a week now, where somebody's going to the emergency room suddenly 5 minutes before they're supposed to be on this program. Either that or people are fucking liars. That's what I think. You know what? I think I just figured out, diagnosed the disease, doctor. They got fucking liartitis. Or, no, that's an inflamed liar. Well, yeah, they're inflamed liars. Anyway, RFQ is back in the news, sticking his foot in his mouth, sticking his somebody else's dick in his mouth, whatever. Oh, I'm sorry. Um, Saying a lot of weird, stupid shit. And I don't know if his campaign is going to die because of this. It seems like in the old days when somebody was campaigning and they came out and said some really, really ridiculous shit. I'm thinking of Gary Johnson in a in an interview. That would be the end of them. Like, yeah, you had a nice run, but if you would have just kept just one less interview, you would have made it. But in the times we're living in now, that shit's gone right out the door. Like, so, he was basically saying, people in Gaza, it's their fault that they're hungry. It's their fault. He was on with Crystal Ball. Yeah, that's her name, Crystal Ball. Her parents were fucked up. That's what's up with that. Who named their kid Crystal Ball? Oh, I can see into the future, man. But and I don't like her or her dickhead husband because they are hell bent on using the word genocide. Anytime somebody in any war is losing, that they are they're on the side of the underdog. And I appreciate being on the side of the underdog, but it's not always genocide. Genocide should be reserved for when somebody like Hitler actually says, "I want a final solution. Let's exterminate the Jews." That's genocide. But when you're in a war and it's just kill everybody, citizens too, that's not genocide. That's war. all's fair in love and war. And listen, that's the number one reason we should stop having war. Because war is ugly. If you try to make war civilized and pretty, and I'm a broken record on this shit, then we'll keep it around for a while as a solution to resolve conflict. It's not an effective solution, obviously, because it never works. Anyway, time to bring in the gentlemen so they can just make fun of me and say mean things about me, Stephen. The wheelchair Ortiz. I'm calling you now. I'm sorry. Uh, Good morning, folks. GD wants to point at his cup before we do anything.
Good morning, America. Welcome to MindDogTV.com and Coffee with the Dog.
Can we get
Did your doctor leave a glove in your ass when he examined you? Call our attorneys right now on We Cheatham and Howe at MindDogTV.com. Reserve your lawsuit today.
That looks more like I don't know, a dishwasher's glove or something. What the hell was that? That's not like a medical little.
It's a dominatrix's leather glove.
I was saying my doctor's never used weird, creepy gloves like that.
Yeah.
Your doctor doesn't wear a leather mask with a studded collar.
You know
That's
my
true.
doctor? You know my doctor? Dr. Vinny Bumbat.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Matt, you don't like doctors, so you don't.
Yeah, that's why Dr. Vinny Bumbat is my doctor. He's not a real doctor.
What?
He's
No. I saw him on television many times.
Good morning, Mr. Soda Pop, Soda Can. Wait, what else do they call it besides soda? Soda, it's pop.
So, from my understanding, the Midwest is pop. South, everything is Coke.
Coke. Everything's
And then everywhere else that I thought was soda. But
so can I get a Sprite Coke?
Well, so down south they'll be like, what can I get you? And they'll be like, yeah, can I get a Dr. Pepper? Like, we don't have that. Then they'll tell you the type or whatever. But if you just go in and say, can I get a Coke? They'll just bring you the first dark soda on tap.
Now, some places say soda pop. They actually do use both words.
I only thought that was the 50s, but I could be
They
wrong.
still go to a diner.
Well, Ron Kane has his own brand of Coke now. Coke Pop, soda, seltzer water, whatever they call it. It's called Dilemma.
Yep. Everyone should be drinking it.
Everyone should be drinking. Now, did you write all that script, or because some of it is pretty fucking funny, but I can't imagine AI actually having a sense of humor like that. Did you write the entire script, or did you just give it like retarded prompts or something?
No, I write the script. I give it prompts. Then even after it makes it, I go back through. Then I re-edit it the script, and that's I kind of meld them put them together and see how it comes out. And that's kind of what I did with that one.
All right. Should I share it? Can you share it?
Whatever is easiest. If you want to share it, doesn't matter.
I think I can do this. Let me see.
It's only like 50 seconds.
Right. Why am I not seeing it in here now? Screen share. It's not. Oh yeah, there it is, right there. Audio's on. Okay. Share. Now I want to refresh this so it starts from the beginning.
Caught in the crosshairs of fighting a three-handed man in an alleyway showdown, pondering a swift exit from the country to dodge those ever-mounting gambling debts. Sounds like you're in a real bind. So open your throat and wet your tongue with a dilemma, brewed from the pure adrenaline of genetically engineered llamas and the unique essence of foot and mouth farms' tainted water. This isn't your average soda pop, savages. This is a taste of the extreme tongue. Picture this. Warlocks dousing themselves in soda as they swallow the flames of refreshment. Yes, that's the dilemma effect, or walking in your house to find a werewolf sitting on your couch, leaving hair and meat leavings. The calmness washes over you. You open your mouth and swallow a dilemma, so quench your thirst, embrace the chaos. From our foot to your mouth dilemma, the soda for life's extreme throat holes. Caught in the crosshairs.
Oh, that's the end of it?
Yeah, that's it.
That's good.
It seemed to
like
kind of
that.
just cut off.
Yeah, that one just did that. So I just left it that way. It just felt like a commercial that way.
Three-handed man. Now, this is really I want to get to the bottom of this. The three-handed man. Does he have 3 arms, or is it a man with 2 arms and 3 hands?
No, it's just a guy with 3 hands. So it could be. It's left up to the whoever's watching it.
So you
he
could like
has
have
2
a
hands in
hand
his
in your
throne,
forehead.
or the third hand could just be in his pocket he's collected from his last victim.
Yeah, it's
Could be like Jeffrey Dahmer. I just happen to have an
Leftovers.
extra. All right, I didn't
And
consider
the dilemma is a chaser.
that. A werewolf. I don't know. The werewolf's like sitting on the couch.
why not? I mean,
don't dogs always want to be on the couch?
Well, they're not really dogs, but I mean, yeah, that's kind of a good point, I guess. But the werewolves I've met, and I have met a few werewolves. They're on a mission to, they're just out for blood, and then once they kill whatever they're gonna kill, it soothes the savage beast, and they become human again.
Now, when you met them, were they in their human form or in their canine form?
Human form. It was in a radio station. Obviously, I mean, I did not go out to wherever werewolves propagate.
Werewolf farms.
They actually had like a meeting place in New York City. It was Stephen Kaplan, who was the head of the Vampire and Werewolf. What was it? Not Civic Association, something like that. But it was Research Center. That's what Werewolf and Vampire and Werewolf Research Center. He had lots of people who were vampires and werewolves, and they would come on the show frequently.
Did they ever show up in their non-human form?
No, I asked for that, because I definitely wanted to see that. But on the other end of it, I was a little afraid of it. I mean, be careful what you ask for.
Well, I'd be afraid of the people who think they're vampires and werewolves. Actually, that's what would scare me. Not the fact that they'll be like, because let's put it this way: a real werewolf or a real vampire probably has real rules, because they would be a species. All species have rules. People who just think that they're those things don't have rules. They're just fucking crazy.
You know what? I gotta send an email. You guys talk amongst yourself. I'm gonna send. Our guest is 2 minutes late already, so we have our first no show of the day. I'm gonna.
Who's the first one? Was that the llama or the
red chili llama pepper?
Okay. All right. So, Ron, Steve, last time I asked this, you guys weren't here. When you put on a shirt with buttons, do you button up or button down?
I let my dick hang out.
I usually button down.
Is there a reason for it? You just because Ron said like me, I do both depending on the shirt.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I don't wear button down shirts often, but if I remember correctly, it's usually just buttoning down, and it's usually because the one that goes behind the tie is always the hardest one to button. So I just want to get that one out of the way, and then the rest follow.
And you can't do that at the. Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, because you're right. Sometimes they can be difficult.
Yeah, that very top button right there at the very top is that one. I have big fingers, so that little button that's a little smaller than the rest,
and it
doesn't button right. Yeah.
But your neck, because my neck is like a 17. What's your neck?
20 and a half.
Damn.
I walk with my arms, bro. I used to be on crutches before the wheelchair.
Hey, everybody. Our next segment. Do you put on your right pant leg or your left pant leg first?
You know what? Honestly, oddly enough, I do both at the same time.
Wow. Yeah, no, I would think you just fall into them, right?
No, I'm not that crippled. It used to be the right leg first, but since I'm in the chair most of the time now, it's just easier to put both legs in and then just hike them up.
Hike them up. I like hiking them up. Speaking of segments, I wanted to make a segment out of this. I don't know how long a segment it would be. Kind of an ongoing list, I think. Michael Francisi, former mob boss, capo. I want to insult him, and I've been working on insults for him. And I want to make it like the longest running list of So right now I got like you rat fink, cum guzzling lion, piece of shit, asshole, cum stain, what is it, syphilitic, yeast infection, syphilitic, yeast infected, syphilitic, oozing cunt. So I'm just like running a list of
You realize not all of those are insults to everybody, right? Some of those are compliments to people.
cum guzzling. What?
If that's your profession,
As I say, if that's your job description,
But I think
right?
he would take it as an insult. No,
Do
again,
you
this is
know he
what
doesn't moonlight as a cum guzzler?
I'm not positive of that, but I would bet I feel pretty secure in betting money that he doesn't.
Mybookie.com.
Well, it's the line is 3-1 now, but it's changing with
sorry.
with the falling of the stock of True Social. It's coming down a little bit. But yeah, so basically I just want to have the longest list of insult like that I can get before delivering it to him. Keep in mind he is a ex-mob boss, but he was a rat fink, and instead of going to prison for life, he ratted out a lot of people. He denies that, but doing the crimes that he did and the charges that he had against him, you don't do 5 years and get out unless you rat somebody out.
Wouldn't it just be simpler to dox him, and that way,
What?
just dox him, right? Then the people looking for him can find him, and I think that probably.
I think he's not in hiding. He's actually a motivational speaker now who's grifting wine. He goes out. He calls it. He's a phony Christian. By the way, that phony Christian is in the list too. But he says claims to have found Jesus Christ and everything is about Christ. And yeah, I'm selling wine, and but I'm also
now is this wine
podcast.
made by Jesus himself?
I don't think anybody's ever asked him that. I don't know. I think it's made by the Ernest and Julio brothers, but
Ernest and Julio Gallo.
Yeah, so he's not the Gallows. Please leave Gallows out of it. But he's not in hiding. He's out doing like motivational speaking, and he does a podcast that is or a live stream which is strictly about mob stuff, and he goes out and he's talking about his life in the mob. Doesn't sound, and he glorifies it, so it doesn't sound like he gets what Christianity is supposed to be about. But him and Sammy the Bull Gravano have gone back and forth. Now Sammy has called him a rat fink, yeast infected, whatever, syphilitic yeast infected cunt. But so he's not in hiding. No, people can find him if they wanted to. His own father was in on a sit down where they ordered him to be killed, and his father didn't object.
It's funny, but like 15
cheaper than abortion.
Like 15 years ago, like all those mob guys were, they're either hiding and stuff. But now, like everyone's got a podcast, and I don't think anyone cares anymore.
Right?
Like if you ratted someone out, I don't.
Well, this is weird because I know a guy who is in hiding. And I don't want to say. I got to be really careful about.
I don't want to give out.
Don't mention Willie by name. Don't mention Willie by name. But go ahead.
No, Willie's lost, not in hiding. There's a difference.
Damn.
But this guy's in hiding. He was involved. He's been involved with those people his entire life since he was a child. Grandfathered in, but I know that he owes people money, and he's living with a friend who's keeping in hiding, and so there are some people who still have that fear or threats about them, but not these big guys like Henry Hill, Michael Franzese, Sammy the Bull. They don't care, I guess. Well, they're old enough. Those guys are old enough that if they get whacked, so what? I mean, they're gonna die soon anyway. He's probably a little older than me.
Yeah, but it'd be worse if they just not whacked, if they were like captured and then pistol whipped or tortured somehow.
I would like that. I would enjoy that.
And probably a lot of the people they ratted on probably are been dead now for a while too.
Yeah, that's definitely
Good
the
chance.
case.
Yeah,
absolutely the case. But you know what? Henry Hill, I could probably get Henry Hill on this program. I don't know that it would be interesting to talk to him.
Is that
because
Henry Hill from Hill Street Blues?
I mean, you'd have to dig him up,
from
but
Goodfellas, the guy who wrote the book Wise Guys.
Oh, okay.
you'd have to dig him up. But I think that's
No, he's not dead.
Yeah, I think he's dead.
No, he's not. He actually was at a comedy club with our friend Joey Gaynor in the last 6 months or so.
No, I thought he died a couple of years ago.
No. When Joey was on, he was doing a show, and Henry was there with him.
Oh.
Yeah, he was in L.A. working in comedy clubs.
Damn it, Ron! You whacked the wrong person.
I'm gonna see if he passed away recently. It would
Yeah,
be
he died in 2012.
No
Ron
way.
whacked the wrong person.
2012.
Really?
Yeah, he was 70 years old. I thought he was dead.
Yeah, 2012. You're right. I guess those Joey was sharing a story from 8 years ago, or 10 years ago, or something. But he definitely was. If you look up the Joey Gaynor, one of the Joey Gaynor appearances on the show, he talked about Henry being part of his comedy thing, and had pictures of him and Henry at the comedy club on stage with him and all that stuff.
Yeah, and
Okay, Ron,
I think he talked about it
so.
so much. Henry Hill talked about it so much. Like by the time he died, I don't think anyone cared anymore.
Right. He wrote that book in like 1989 or something. The movie was made in like 92 and 93. By that time, he did go into hiding again for a short time after that. But you know what? Like he says in the book, it's fucking boring in the witness protection program. So I'd rather get whacked. And he never did get whacked, did he?
No.
What did he die of?
Cancer, I believe. I'm just going by memory.
Well, that way, Ron, since you admitted it's cancer, you can't get paid for that hit now, right?
Yeah.
Unless that's how you do your hits, so it looks like cancer.
He was convicted of attempted methamphetamine possession. Like he attempted to possess it.
That's a loser crime. What?
What the fuck? Yeah, I know.
Attempted to possess
That's what it says here. So one of his convictions was extortion, but then the attempted in 2005 he was convicted of attempted methamphetamine possession.
I wonder if he tried buying it off of a undercover cop.
I think that's a thing. Attempted possession. It's either possession or not.
I'd rat too if that's the kind of crimes I committed, though.
Yeah.
I think the only thing lamer than that would be like getting arrested for like robbing a flower shop or something, or attempting to rob a flower shop.
No, because even then you could still potentially harm another person. He attempted to possess drugs. That's so weak.
And attempted possession is not really a thing because it's either possession or it's not. You can't like attempt to possess something and not get it, and then obviously you can.
It's a crime if they make it a crime. I mean, you can make. In some of the cities in the South, like I think in Georgia and maybe Alabama, there was a town that was making it illegal if you wore your pants, if your butt crack showed, if your butt crack showed in public, like you're wearing your pants too low, you could get arrested and have a like $500 fine. That was on the books.
Crack shows. I like it. There's a kind of a musical beat to if your butt crack shows. Say it again.
If your butt crack shows.
If your butt crack shows.
Yeah.
Genius at work, ladies and gentlemen.
That's how songs are written. And I know Paul McCartney and John Lennon.
Man, I wish I would have found that out sooner.
I watched a documentary last night on JFK, solving the crime of the century. And this guy claimed that JFK faked his death.
I hate it when people fall on bullets.
No. He broke down the Gruda film, whatever you have. And right before you see like the blood shoot out in front, like you get hit from the back, you see JFK do this. And the conjecture was, and this guy was a physical film effects expert. And he's saying he's putting a squib on. You can see clearly that he's putting a squib on, making it look like he was anticipating this. And they told the Secret Service guys to get away from the car so they wouldn't see him putting the squib on. Now he did this because he knew there was going to be a hit on him anyway, and he was trying to get out from under it.
Now, if that film was acting, I think Oscars should go to LBJ for pretending to be a president for the rest of the year, and to rest of the term, and to Jackie Onassis, who took it so far that she actually married another man.
Yeah,
I was gonna say Jackie Kennedy. That's the best.
He covered that.
Ever.
He has that all covered in his conspiracy theory. Now, I know it's so fucking far fetched, it's ridiculous, but like,
so why are you repeating this?
Because
there's 4 people that's going to believe you.
Nobody's going to believe me.
Right now, Willie is writing. Right now, Willie is like,
Willie's not up yet. He's got his alarm clock set in the corner of the airport there for like noon or whatever. Don't worry about it.
You don't know that. He may have been up early to watch the sunrise from Terminal B. You don't know that.
Terminal B.
That's right. Or he could have like a will call seat.
Pretty sure Terminal B faces away from the
will
sun.
call Will seat. So that he has to be awake if they call him for that seat.
So he has a recording of LBJ and Jackie a few days after, and they're flirting, and she's laughing and talking about, LBJ's hitting on her, and basically she says, "We really pulled it off."
Yeah, can you get the duct tape so it can tape my head back into place?
Yeah, and if they were really flirting, when she said we really pulled it off, she could have been talking about a brassiere.
Right.
But I mean, if he's really flirting.
But if you just had your husband's head blown off, you wouldn't be flirting with his replacement.
That's the best time.
And she's giggling. She's happy, and the phone call is very creepy.
You should have seen my mother after my father died. You'd have thought she won a Powerball, and Powerball.
But that's fine. But it negates your thing about she wouldn't be flirting with him and all that stuff. And they were acting. LBJ and her were acting. Yeah, they were. They seemed to be acting quite a little bit on either they were acting on the phone call that they knew was being taped, or they were acting in public, but they were definitely putting on a show for somebody.
No, I'm saying no, that doesn't negate. I'm saying she could be happy that he was dead. I mean, let's face it, the man was a hound dog.
Or at least
time. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You go. No, you go.
I was gonna say.
Go ahead, Ron, go ahead.
You think they would
make? Ron, go ahead.
Like, let's clean the car out. That's what they would be talking about. Let's get the brains on the inside of that car.
And maybe when they said they pulled it off, is they pulled the chunks of his head off the car.
Because you got to get your deposit back on that limo. On that car.
Brain matter ruins the warranty.
I'm pretty sure that's covered under, like, it comes with the job.
Only if you pay the $11 for that extra insurance.
The $11 presidential package that they sell to everybody.
Yeah.
So it seemed pretty clear that
it wasn't even a thing back then.
If you had gone to mybookie.com and placed all the money on Red Hot Llama, you'd have enough to buy one share of Truth Social right now.
DJT, yeah.
You guys have stock?
I have stock that is going. That's
I mean, in Truth Social.
Meme stock. That's
in Truth Social. DJT. You have.
He's not getting a dime of my fucking money.
Well, here's the thing. And now maybe I'm wrong about this, because I've been wrong about everything so far this morning. But if we all chipped in and bought the stock while it's all, wouldn't we own Trump? Wouldn't we own Truth Social and be able to kick him off his own network?
That'd be so mean and funny.
No, because first of all, he owns 58.8% of the.
That's what 78%. What I read this morning, but I could be wrong about that. I've been wrong about everything else so far. But
70 something. It was like 78 million shares is how many shares he owns. 58.8% is the actual percentage.
All right. So if we bought all of them, wouldn't we own Truth Social and be able to kick him off?
Yeah, if you got
Ron's saying yes. I'm going with Ron because
you could, but the board would have to side with you, and I think the board is all his people. So
the board is
probably family.
Devin Nunes.
Yeah,
he got bailed out, by the way. Somebody gave him $175 million to put the bond up.
Well, that night insurance. But the guy, the billionaire who's like the majority holder of that is already in to Trump for like 200 million from other projects.
Right.
So in for a penny, in for £1 million.
A pound. A pound. 1 pound.
No, I think it's £1 million.
A pound. A pound.
Inflation.
1 pound.
Inflation.
Now, all the advertising on Truth Social on there right now, let me see. All of it seems to be like
My Pillow.
make coffee great again. A picture of Trump. This
Dick
one
pills.
is Trump coin. Trump mugshot on gold coins. Flash sale for that.
Yeah, Trump earbuds.
Let's see what this one is. Trump on a $24 bill. Claim one free. That's now that should be illegal, right? That just in that the defaming or
as long as it doesn't say legal tender. If it says not legal tender on there, I think you can do anything you want to do.
I think it'll say chicken tender, probably.
chicken tender.
Yeah, chicken tender.
Now this,
Greasy bills.
now this one doesn't seem to be him. This is says goodgodfather.co. It's just a hunter hat, a camouflage hat with scales on it, justice scales. Those are the only advertisers I see. Other than that, no, they're just same old things repeated over and over again. So I don't know how they're making money. If everybody buying,
he's not making money.
Well, I don't know how they're taking in money because according to the financials they released, they took in $4.1 million. Now, where'd they take that in from? Because if I'm buying commercials from myself or advertising from myself, that's not taking money in.
Yeah, they took in 4.1 million, but I think they lost 58 million.
But right, but where'd they take that 4.1 million in? If I'm the only one advertising on my own network, I'm not taking in $4.1 million. I'm just telling myself, here's a free ad for you, self.
Some
could
people
be, or a lot of my
some
pillows
people
are on there.
And some people are buying stuff just for access to him. So they may not even care about the actual product as long as Trump gets the money and they get the access.
Okay. So they don't get the ad. They don't. I think you're obligated if you got to show if you're selling advertising to actually show the ad. No.
Well, there's probably a small percentage of, a very small percentage of companies that are willing to advertise them, but it's not like Coke or Pepsi is going to advertise on there.
My eyes are shot, but they have the full breakdown of where they took in all this money and where the expenditures are listed here. Trump Media and Technology Group Corp released this yesterday, right? Yeah, 2 days ago, March 31st for this quarter, 4.131 million taken in. Now, yeah, 58 million out. Market cap is 6 billion. I don't get that. Where does that 6 billion come from? Anyway, that's
Isn't that the what it opened at on the public?
I guess, but I mean that's like arbitrary. They just set that price. Yeah, we're worth 6 billion. I could say I'm worth 15 million, right? Am I? I'm worth 15 billion. I think.
I was thinking more like 11 or 12 million. I think 15 million is a little high.
Advertising to the biggest group of suckers of all time is worth something to someone. Yeah, I mean, so people are suggesting that Trump is going broke because of this, but he's not going broke. His followers, the people who are investing in it, are losing all his money, right? He didn't really put any cash into this fucking thing, or did he?
No, he's not going. No, right.
He seems to be really good at not putting his own money into things. So
OPM,
Right.
Other people's money.
Yeah, he just lives on credit. It's like it seems like it's very month to month with a lot of money involved. It's
credit and debt. He lives off of credit and debt.
Yeah.
There's a picture of an airport that came up right away, and I just went back to thinking Willie was there. It's 7 House Republicans filed a bill to rename D.C.'s Dulles Airport to Donald J. Trump International Airport. Fucking the cult worship of this guy is off the charts. Now, To be fair, there was some of that with Obama. They had him on a cross with crown of thorns and all that, but it wasn't to this extent. Like they were calling him the chosen one on
And
Easter
Obama wasn't
Sunday.
buying into it.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
At least not publicly.
I never had a conversation with him, but the thing about all these guys before Trump is they had the good sense to not be fucking putting every thought that comes into their head out into the world. Trump seems to, every thought he has, he feels like he has to share it with the entire world. Like the other day on Easter Sunday, there were 71 rage tweets on Truth Social before he ever acknowledged it being Easter Sunday. It was just like how much he hates everybody, all in caps. 71.
I mean, he's just a very sad and empty man. So, what's going to be funny is, he's probably when he croaks, it's going to be very embarrassing, and they're going to have to try and cover that shit up. It's going to be like worse than Elvis, I think.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
He's going to die on a toilet with his phone in one hand and some chicken fingers in the other, or chicken fingers in his butt or something.
I think you're putting it way too mildly. Like they had those black and white films of Hitler with like foxtails up his ass or something running. I've never seen them, but I've heard about them. I don't know if it's true even. I'm just putting it out. But they had
Matt's own private collection of Hitler memorabilia.
Okay, somebody look this up without ruining their browser history.
Matt, just send your wife in your closet and have her look through your stuff. Do your other Hitler memorabilia. Honey, look in the closet. Look in the box with the two swastikas. Yeah, that box there.
Fact check me on this, people. Watch Hitler's Secret Sex Life on Prime. Netflix, watch Hitler's Secret Sex Life. Go behind the scenes with it's on all the streaming networks. By the way,
it's not on YouTube. It's not surprising though, because like a guy like that, he's very insecure, and so it makes sense that he would be into kinky shit.
Yeah, one ball. I know him and Napoleon both had one ball.
But wouldn't that be like every comedian then, and almost every actor?
You guys never heard about this stuff with Hitler with the foxtails up his ass chasing Ava Braun around?
I missed it. I'm sorry.
Because I haven't heard about it recently. I mean, this was like 30, 40 years ago. People were talking about this.
I'm a little older than 30 or 40 years, and I don't think I've ever. And I've watched a lot of World War II films. And
Hitler's Secret Sex Life included S&M and incest documentary claims.
It sounds like you're watching outtakes from Inglourious Bastards. The stuff that they had on the cutting room floor.
Well, no, I think, if any of that's, I never saw Inglourious Bastard, but if any of that stuff is in there, it's because Tarantino heard the same shit that I heard growing up.
No, that's the cutting room floor shit. That's not even the stuff that's in there, because it wasn't in there. I'm just saying that's the stuff that's from his blooper reel.
All right. Adolf Hitler had a complicated, kinky sex life filled with voyeurism, sadomasochism, porn addiction. Well, porn, like there were no VHS even, and even incest. New documentary series claims a private sex life of German dictator whose Nazi regime murdered 6 million Jews. I thought that was space lasers. During the Holocaust, also included urine play. It always comes back to piss. Despite the fact that he publicly shunned sex, according to Hitler's Sex Life, which begins airing Sunday on 4-episode series, delves into claims that Hitler's personal doctor gave him amphetamines and bull semen to ramp up his sex drive. I don't know. Amphetamines would kill your sex drive.
Is that straight from the bull, or is it like somebody went and got it for him? I mean,
he heard the saying, "Grab the bull by the horns," and he just heard horn.
Yeah. See, Willie just woke up. He must have heard a jet taking off. And examines the incestuous relationship allegedly he had with his niece, Jelly Rollball. Huh.
Jelly Roll.
Jelly Roll. Jelly Rollball. In 1925, Raubal, then 17, began living with Hitler along with her mother, Angela, who worked as the Fuhrer's housekeeper. Yeah, you got your cousin, or what is it? Is it cousin or no? His sister, right? If the girl was his niece, then Angela, the mother, must have been his sister who worked at the Fuhrer's house. I got my sister working as a housekeeper for me. Jesus. Then he
Could be
became obsessed with
sister-in-law.
the teen. 19 years his junior. The pair started a 6-year sexual relationship that included having her urinate on him.
It's always poo-poo pee-pee play. Always.
Now, is that necessarily? That's not really incest. It's not really sex. Urinating on somebody.
I think if it's used during the process of sex, that it's considered.
Hey,
So,
right?
but if I just
Speak
piss
for
on you,
yourself.
just for the fun of it, like you're just standing next
Yeah.
to me and I just whip out my dick and piss on you, that's not sex.
I mean, they used to do that on Jackass. They'd like sneak up behind somebody and like piss down their back just for fun.
So, did anybody say,
That was
"Hey,
never sexual"?
you just had sex? We just had sex.
It depends on the context and the state that you're in. And not by state, I mean like Alabama or Georgia or
Wow.
Germany.
For the record, most incest happens out west in like Utah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
6 years.
Yeah, per capita, percentage-wise, but per capita, it's in the South.
6 years into the pissing
Probably.
thing, she was pissing on him for 6 years, and then she was found dead from a gunshot wound to the chest in Hitler's Munich apartment after having a conversation with Strasser about being made to squat over the dictator's face and urinate, getting him sexually aroused, according to the documentary.
Okay.
Ew.
What a perfect transition to going from Trump to Hitler, and yet
That's not a stretch.
And I'm saying keeping with the PP theme, just not losing the PP theme.
Well,
Going straight from one wannabe dictator to another wannabe world dictator.
Now that's a good segue that you just brought up, is the P thing, and how I know for a fact that the P thing was real.
Whose? Hitler's or
Trump?
Well, I believe it was real too.
Don't
Because
believe.
when they first mentioned it, he didn't deny it. He says, "I'm a germaphobe." That was his first denial. It wasn't like, "I wouldn't do that." It was like, "I'm a germaphobe."
P is sterile. Not a good cover story.
And plus, Hitler was ahead of his time because incest porn and piss porn are now more popular than ever. So,
right.
Yeah.
And so is Nazism.
Yeah.
Well,
they go hand in hand, apparently.
You know what? Maybe James Cloud will have some insight into the Hitler kink stuff. But I just want to say about Trump with his pee fetish, because they did claim that it was all made up propaganda stuff, because it was in the dossier, which had a few inaccuracies, and it wasn't full of provable inaccuracies, but it definitely had a couple. The fact that it said that Michael Cohen was in Prague, Michael Cohen proved he was never in Prague, and Michael Cohen is no longer a Trump loyalist, so I believe him when he says, it's wrong about that.
But it's like, for example, I have never been in. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've been to Fort Wayne, Indiana, but I'm sure there's a town nearby. I'm sure there's a town like nearby there that you don't go there. But
right.
So when you say you're in the area, it's like, I went to Fort Wayne, so he may have been.
Yeah,
nearby.
but Michael Cohen's not looking to cover for Trump, so
he's covering himself. He's covering for himself.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't charged with anything. Basically, it was about the dossier and what the dossier got wrong.
I'm saying what he was doing there is still secret. It's still secret. That wasn't Trump business. That was Mike Cohen.
I don't think he. No, I don't. He would keep that secret, but not keep secret the fact that he paid a porn star $130.
It wasn't his porn star he paid. That was Trump's porn star.
Right, but he went to jail for that and was admitting it in the same sentence that he said, "I never went to Prague."
He didn't go to Prague.
Right. That's exactly right.
He was Prague adjacent.
No. I don't think he's lying about any of that. I don't think the cell phone stuff, all that stuff proved that he never went to Czechoslovakia or the old Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic or whatever it was.
If I were cheating on my wife, I would never take my phone with me to cheat on my wife. I would have a burner phone.
The irrefutable proof to me about it's not irrefutable. Somebody can refute it, but here's the thing: on the day the locker room tape came out on Access locker room, the Access Hollywood tape where Trump said, "Grab him by the pussy" and all that stuff. That was in the news. That was the prime thing, and people even within Trump's campaign was saying that was DEFCON 5. They had to handle that. The biggest story out there. They're having a meeting about how do we deal with this, and then people coming up. Well, you should say it was locker room talk and all that kind of stuff. It was the day before or a couple of days before the debate with Hillary. So that's the number one pressing issue. Hope Hicks goes to Trump and says, we might have another problem. Hope Hicks, by the way, Trump's number one confidant at that time, and up until yesterday probably still was. But so she says to him, we may have another problem. There's a story about a tape in Moscow where you're asking prostitutes to pee on the bed. And Trump's response was, put Michael Cohen on and make sure he gets that tape and destroys it. He did not say, and he said, I'll handle this grab him by the pussy thing. Make sure Michael Cohen gets that tape and destroys it. Now, that he didn't say that's fake. He didn't say, that tape couldn't exist because it never happened. He said, get Michael Cohen on it, make sure he gets that tape and destroys it. If he said, get that tape and make him get that tape and destroys it, that's proof that it must have happened, because if I said to Ron Kane, there's a tape of you with prostitutes pissing on a bed that you're making them piss on the bed, you'd say, no, that never happened. There can't be a tape of it, especially pre-AI days. So you would not insinuate that, make sure you get the tape. Now, she testified to that before the Senate, that he's working on 2 scandals at once, and he tells her that's Michael Cohen's priority, make sure he gets that tape and destroys it. That, to me, is proof that it absolutely had to happen, because
that's the only answer you can use if it happened.
Right. Mm-hmm. If it didn't happen, you would say, "Oh, forget about that. That's nonsense." Tell them to show the tape. I want to see this fucking tape. There's no fucking tape of that.
Right.
Anyway. So yeah, I think you guys hate Trump. Well, yeah, we do. I do. I will admit to that. I hate Trump on many different levels. Absolutely. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. You're either blind, dumb, or stupid. Dumb and stupid, I guess, is the same thing. But if you don't recognize Satan when you see him. I mean, there is no closer personification of evil and just rotten to the core than Donald Trump. That absolutely is. So
I have difficulty refuting that. I statistically, I have to think with 8 billion people, there's probably one person maybe worse, but I can't.
Well, it was Hitler.
alive on the planet right now.
Oh,
because I'm sure there's some African warlord right now who may be a tad worse than Trump, but I don't know. He's not tweeting about it. He's not, So
that's because that guy's on Truth Social.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a fake info, fake news. Yeah. Except that it came from him. Not from
mouth.
It came from his loyalists. Nobody made that up. It was not like a left thing. So yeah, we got to go to a commercial because our second guest who actually showed up. If you would have
wouldn't be our first guest, he's our first guest.
He's our second scheduled guest, but our first guest. If you would have went to my bookie and listened to me and bet the ranch on this guest showing up, you'd have enough money to invest. You'd buy Truth Social right out. So there you go. Mybookie.com. Now there was a big LSU. What was the two top girls, the 2 Michael Jordans of girls college basketball faced off last night.
One's in Iowa, right?
Iowa and LSU. Thank you. Those were the 2 teams. Close. It seemed like a lot of cheating going on from what I saw. A lot of traveling. A lot of the one girl on LSU seem to run like 6 steps without dribbling.
Oh, that's called the LeBron James now. It's not traveling. It's actually called the LeBron James. I think
The only way they don't penalize is if you scream LeBron James as you do it.
Right. As a matter of fact, LeBron James there was a video, he took like 4 steps sideways, and the referee like didn't call it. And the people were like in an interview, they asked him about that because the referee was like looking right at him, and it was like one of those game deciding points. And he says, no, that's my crab step. I'm sorry. Giving it a name is
crab
how you
step.
get away. Yeah, that's his crab step. Giving it a name is how you get away with
like a Texas 2-step crab step.
Yeah, that's how you avoid
Makes
penalty.
sense.
So like if you elbow a player and they don't have a name for it, it's a foul. But if you hit him in the face and you yell, "This is my what was that guy from the Heat? Alfonso Mourning. This is my Alonzo Mourning." If you yell Alonzo Mourning when you do it, it's not a foul.
Or you say good Alonzo Mourning.
Right, good Alonzo. Yes, that's then it's a move. It's a legitimate move.
I got to do it tomorrow when my wife says good morning to me. I just give her one for the team. Say good Alonzo Mourning.
Just be careful because you might say, "And good Lorena Bobbitt to you."
But it seems these girls have gotten more violent. I mean,
it's all the testosterone in the memory.
You believe that? Do you think they're juicing up with hormones and stuff?
No, with memory juice.
Memory juice?
They're putting hormones in all the milk.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Yep.
But no, you see these girls punching each other, and like, I don't know, maybe because I never paid attention before, and I'm still not really paying attention. But to see girls acting like dudes, it's like, you know what? It's bad enough dudes act like dudes.
No, they're acting like athletes. They're not acting like dudes. They're acting like athletes.
The fact that most of them are lesbian has nothing to do with it.
Or maybe it's their love language. Why are you hating?
No,
it could be their love language.
Steven, you put out an allegation there. Do we have proof of this?
I'll need video proof of some of them being lesbian.
What would you say?
Yeah, because according to Steven, any woman that doesn't sleep with him is a lesbian.
So, just to be clear, if I go to like one of these female, what they still call girls? We still call them girls. Girls basketball, or is it women's or it's girls?
It's women's.
I have to
How
say
old
women.
are they? How old are they?
They're in college, so they're probably
young lady
19 or so,
basketball.
right? If I go into the arena, it's just like wafting of cookie smell, like baked cookies.
I also think you smell Wonder Bread.
Wonder Bread.
Yeast.
All right, we have to get a commercial, man.
Smells like pretzels in here.
Now they're down to the Final Four, so we got a week to play 4 games.
2 games. If it's Final
no,
Four.
actually, the Final Four is 2 games, and so 3 games incomplete. 2 games between the Final Four and then the final game, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Well, actually, and then the 4th game is the winner plays itself. You're right. So it is 4.
That's a long time to spread out. So 2 days off between games. I mean, it's a long time between now and Monday night to.
Well, they
just
need to
3
recover.
Games.
They need to hype. They need to sell product. And if you have time, if you don't put time between the games, you don't have time to sell product.
Do you know when the next games are going to be, or is it like Friday, Saturday, Monday?
I know I know it's scheduled. I don't know what the schedule is, but Ron knows because he's our sports guy. Ron,
our sports guy, chief sports correspondent Ron Kane, now with the info on the Final Four.
Yeah, sometime this week.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, you heard it here first. Now, if you can't figure out who to bet on, MyBookie will actually help you lose your money at mybookie.com.
The experts at MyBookie have created the ultimate NCAA March Madness betting guide to help you make the best bets throughout the tournament. Throughout this betting guide, the pros will go in depth on the best teams, players, and bets throughout the entire NCAA March Madness tournament. 2024 March Madness 85th edition of the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Tournament tips off Tuesday, March 19th to Monday, April 8th, 2024. Go to mybookie.com/minddog and get up to $1,000 welcome bonus.
Oh yeah, up to $1,000 cash bonus for signing up there. Now, I'm certain James Cloud, who is a distinguished gentleman, a distinguished guest, is probably calling his publicist and saying, "What kind of show did you get me booked on? How dare
Or
you?"
he's calling his bookie to make sure he gets his bets
That could
in.
be it too. Call it his bookie to bet on I don't know, LSU. No, Iowa. Iowa won. Yeah.
Can you believe they're talking about Hitler's sex life? What have I been waiting for?
Well, I think he probably knows more about it than we do, and I can't wait to ask him about
Why
that
is
one.
that?
Because he's a historian, an educator who's written on and I believe lived in Germany for a while. We'll ask him all about that. His latest book is called Brandenburg: A Story of Berlin. Maybe that's why I think he knows about Hitler.
Okay.
James Cloud is a retired educator with more than 30 years of experience teaching history, government, U.S. citizenship preparation, German and English as a second language. He was born and brought up in New Mexico shortly before the outbreak of World War II. As a child, he heard a lot about the war and the treatment of the Jewish people in Europe. It created a great curiosity in him and led to a lifelong interest in these two cultures, and resulting in his first novel, Brandenburg: A Story of Berlin. He's here now, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome James Cloud to Coffee with Doug.
Oh, that James Cloud. Hey, guy, what's going on, baby?
Good morning.
Are you in shock right now of the show that you got booked on, and probably without your?
Well, I don't shock very easily. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. I'm fascinated with Germany and how they actually fell for the Nazi stuff. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, I never understood how people followed Hitler until I saw what happened in America in the last 10 years or so. Can you give me some insight into how Hitler created that, willfully going along and the final solution and all that stuff, got the people just to follow him and adore him? Have you learned anything about human nature and why people would follow somebody like that?
Well, I would hope I've learned something about human nature in 80 plus years, but I get surprised all the time too by people come up with things that I would never think of. But I guess I ought to kind of start from the beginning. I was 80 years old, and I'd just gone through a divorce and cancer surgery, and I was kind of struggling with end of life questions, I guess you'd say. And I decided it was time to kind of document some of my life experiences, and especially the experiences I'd had over a lifetime of interacting with German and Jewish people. And I can remember at the end of the war, I'm part of the generation that grew up during World War II. And as soon as the war was over, the newsreels started coming. And then we started seeing these horrific images of what happened in the camps and all that was related to the Holocaust. And of course, we've seen a lot more and heard a lot more about that since. But I can remember how the attitude at the time was in total shock. I mean, we were already mad at the Germans because we'd just gone through a war with them. But even with that, I don't think a lot of people were ready for what came when we learned about the Holocaust. Well, that term came later, but anyway, I remember people saying things like, "What's wrong with those people? Is there a flaw in German character?" And of course, I was 8 years old, and that impressed me a lot. And I thought, yeah, maybe there is. And so for a long time, I was fascinated with this question of how could a civilized country, a highly developed country like Germany, degenerate to the point of getting involved in these horrific things. And so I guess that sparked a lifelong interest in this topic. I indicated I'm 86 years old and part of that generation. And over a lifetime, I tried to figure out the answer to this question. as you indicate, I've taught history and I've taught German and been involved with that for over 30 years. I first went to Germany in 1961, and that was 16 years after the war ended. And I had some interaction with German people at that time, but of course I was just there as a tourist and I only spent part of the summer. But I went back later and I lived there for 5 years during the height of the Cold War. And that's when I began to have the opportunity to get to really know some of these people. I developed relationships and friendships. I became acquainted with all kinds of people from all kinds of backgrounds, of course. At one point, actually, I was in a hospital in a 10-man ward, and 2 beds away from me was a man who had been an officer in the SS. So, you know, that just kind of gives you a little feel for the variety of people that I learned and met. When I talk about the characters in my book, I have to reflect back on how these friends, well, they had to know me for a while and begin to trust me, to tell me their stories and their experiences during the Nazi years and the war years and all that. And I got some surprises, of course, and I had the feeling that some of these people were actually revealing some secrets. And so when I got around to the point of thinking about writing this novel, this first novel, I've tried to draw upon my experiences and interactions with the Germans that I knew and have known since. And my characters in my book, it's historical fiction, of course, but the characters in my book are really, you might say, composites of many of the people that I knew at that time. And so I'm trying to tell the story of the Nazi era and World War II from a German perspective as best I can, not being German myself. I guess if I had a motive for this, what I'm really trying to do is have, and I'd like people to think about this, and I'm sure you have already indicated that, we ask ourselves, how could something like the Holocaust happen in a country like Germany? It's highly developed and, we'd say, civilized in a sense that they are. I know Germans today who ask that same question.
Yeah.
How did that happen to us? What was wrong with us? And so on and so on. Of course, we're dealing with a generation now it's beyond the World War II generation. But I think that we can see that it still disturbs a lot of people, not only around the world, but in Germany itself. So my books are really kind of an attempt to answer the question. Now,
if I may, did you know anybody who were obviously they were probably children like you were at the time of the Nazi occupation, but anybody who came from a family that were loyalists who wonder how this could have happened? Like that would provide hope that someday the people who are getting in the modern cult of repeating history might someday awaken. Did you find anybody who was deep in who expressed not only regret but confusion about how they got taken?
Well, yeah. I mean, I knew people whose parents had either been involved, their fathers had been involved in the military, or I knew one young man who admitted that his father had been a Gauleiter. I mean, I don't know if you know what that term means, but a Gauleiter was a district Nazi appointed leader in a, I guess you equate it to somebody in this country who was maybe a county supervisor or something like that. But yeah, and I even knew some people that would, I knew one young man who said his father still insisted that, yeah, Hitler was the man. Well, I ran that by my landlady. I was living with a German family out in the southwestern part of Berlin. And they were middle class, well-educated people. And I remember when I ran that by my landlady, I said, you know, Udo says that his father still thinks that Germany was lucky to have Hitler. And she says, oh, yeah, we were lucky to have Hitler. Look around. Look what we've got. Look what he left us with.
Right.
I mean, here we are in West Berlin, which was divided from East Berlin and all that drama going on at the time. So, yeah, I met people who had a variety of reactions.
When you were there in
I
'61,
think
was that at the
Hitler-
time that Kennedy was over there making the speech about Ich mein Berliner or whatever?
I wasn't actually in Berlin at that time. Well, as a matter of fact, if you'll allow me a minute, I have to tell you, I didn't actually make it to Berlin in 1961. I had a ticket booked to Berlin. I was supposed to go there. I was staying with a family. I was staying with some friends in Denmark, up north of Copenhagen. And I remember we're talking about August 13th, 1961. And the young man in the family knocked on my door and said, Jim, I don't think you're going to Berlin today. And I said, of course I'm going to Berlin today. What are you talking about? He says, well, come downstairs and look at the TV. So I did. And it was all about them putting up the wall that day.
Wow.
And nobody could believe it. I mean, what do you mean put up a wall across the city that size? And so I called the airline. I said, well, I'm supposed to fly into Berlin this afternoon. What do you think about that? And she said, well, we're not actually restricting it, but we're advising people, unless you have urgent business there, not to do that at this time. So I canceled my plans of going to Berlin in August of '61. I missed it by just that much.
Did they not think the airplane could make it over the wall?
I'm sorry again.
No, so did they not think that the airplane could make it over the wall?
I don't think that was her main reason for saying. What she was telling me is, if you want to look out for yourself, don't put yourself in the middle of that situation.
Yeah, no, because I'm curious now. Was there no advance warnings that they were going to do this, or it seemed like from the story you just told, it seemed like it was a spur of the moment thing, and the people were not aware that there was going to be a wall erected.
Well, it depends on whose point of view you're talking about. From the East German point of view, we know now that that's all been opened up and we have access to the Stasi file, the East German secret police and so on. Oh yeah, that was well planned. And as a matter of fact, the Russians were behind it 100%. So it was all laid out. I remember one person who did tell me that she lived near one of the canals that came into Berlin, and other people also indicated they saw an unusual movement of material being shipped into East Berlin, building material, concrete blocks, barbed wire, all that. So yeah, it was well planned from the East German side, but it caught people on the West side and the Allies totally flat-footed.
I mean, none of them like suspected something when there were all these little flyers on the telephone pole says there's a rally in the middle of the city, bring a brick. You know, just
bring a brick.
So that everybody could just put up part of the wall. Nobody suspected anything.
I wasn't in East Berlin. Maybe that's what they did. I don't know.
Oh, okay. You weren't in East Berlin. That's what kind of plays into my next question is, and obviously you were a child at the time, but you have the experience and the education to know about this stuff. Was Germany at the time as divided as America seems to be right now, like people half in, half out, or was it the majority, like almost 90% of Germany behind Hitler, you know, with complete enthusiasm?
Well, you know, that's a question that gets brought up time and time and again, right up to the present time. I don't think that we'll probably ever be able to totally answer that question, because you've got to consider the society at the time. I mean, after the war, the whole attitude of the world was that, you know, Hitler was evil and bad and this was awful and that the Germans were responsible for it. And, you know, it goes back and forth. But I think that to answer your question, again, in order to get somebody's real feelings, you had to really get to know the person. And I
Right.
tried to do that. And even as well as I knew many Germans in the 5 years I lived there, I never really got a complete picture from everybody, because part of this was because of the Nazi experience itself, which had programmed them over a period of 12 years to keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, and don't make waves. And so even 20 years after the war, I think a lot of Germans who had lived through those times were still a little bit shy about talking to anybody about that period. And some people absolutely would not discuss it. Some people would say, I don't want to talk about that.
I can imagine. It must be really hard to even kind of open yourself up to become friends with somebody, especially when they start talking about pro Holocaust views, or anti-Semitism and all that stuff. And still, if you want to get their story and you want to really uh, embody some trust for yourself, you have to kind of sit through that. It got to be a little difficult to. And you weren't thinking about writing a book at that time. You were just
No.
a historian and a teacher.
Well, at that time, I wasn't even a teacher. That even came later. I was just there as a student.
Okay.
I went to Germany to complete an education. And, the thing was, I didn't pry. I didn't promote this. I didn't dig at this. I let people bring it up on their own. I mean, it came up and,
How could it not? It's so deeply
Yeah.
part of their, whatever heritage.
But I let them lead the conversations. And when they were ready to tell me what they felt like was important to get out, I just listened, but I didn't dig too much. I let them just tell me when they felt like it.
All right. This next question probably is beyond your expertise as a historian and teacher, but as an older statesman and somebody who has lived a life, I'm wondering if you believe in good and evil, and do you believe like somebody like Hitler was born evil?
I don't know. If I think of a little baby, I think,
I know
is a bagel. No, I really, that's a hard one. Sometimes I'm just like everybody else. I get caught up in my emotions, or something annoys me, or something triggers my thoughts, and I think, wow, that person's totally gone. But if I really think about it, no, I don't think anybody is, quote, born evil. I don't believe this is a genetic thing. I believe that life circumstances, and of course, some people are born with mental issues and so on that can contribute to this. But I don't think that small children just in and of themselves promote thoughts. Well, I really want to kill somebody.
I tend to agree with you every time, because I've asked this question of a lot of people who've been on this show from all walks of life, and I get the majority of people do believe in good and evil as forces, and I've had people tell me, yes, Hitler as a baby was evil. It's like, how could just the concept of a baby being born evil is a tough thing for me.
No,
But
they're never born evil. Doesn't happen until the terrible twos, hence the terrible twos.
Well, I like to say,
and if you don't treat the terrible twos right, then they become evil.
Well, having raised a couple of girls, I like to tell people, they've got little kids. I say, enjoy them now, because one of these days they're going to turn 15.
That's even worse than the terrible twos.
Yeah, the terrible 15, the horrible 15s, whatever they're called, the 15s. Yeah. What part of New Mexico were you born and raised in?
Well, actually, I'm kind of a person, you could say, that started out in Las Vegas and ended up in Las Vegas. I now live in Las Vegas, Nevada, but I grew up in Las Vegas, New Mexico. So I've kind of gone full cycle as far as the two Las Vegases are concerned.
UNLV.
Yeah, I went all the way.
Yeah. Is that where you taught?
No, actually, I left New Mexico when I was about 21. I moved to Boston, lived there for a number of years, actually in Boston is where I met a young German couple who talked me into the idea of going to Germany and completing an education. And that's what prompted my move to Germany, where I lived there for 5 years while I went to university. And then I came back, got married, raised a family, had a 30-year career as a teacher, and retired, and I ended up in Las Vegas.
Wow.
So
very cool. So you don't have to go to mybookie.com. Now the book writing it was it's because it's a tough subject, but was the writing process an enjoyable process for you?
Yeah, it required a lot of concentration and effort. I had to do an enormous amount of research. I would say that I'm just saying this off the top of my head, but I think I could say that for every hour that I spent really writing directly in the novel, I probably had put anywhere from 2 to 4 hours of research. Because when I came to an issue that dealt with a historical event or a place or a personality, I tried to do my homework so that anybody that would try to cross-examine what's in the book as far as real historical fact, I try to be on solid ground before I write anything.
Yeah.
What was the most surprising? Was there like a big myth that you found that you didn't know it was a myth? You know what I'm saying? Something you just heard and took for granted, and then you get into the research like, oh my God, that never really happened, or that's just BS. Was there something, a surprising fact that you found out wasn't a fact?
Yeah, I don't know where to start with that, because I would say I had that experience quite, repeatedly. I mean, I'd come across things that I didn't know, that I'd never heard of, and I'd say, wow. And I mean, some of the things that really astonished me particularly was some of the statistics that I came across of what the German people went through, particularly after World War I. I mean, that's a whole story in itself. Yeah. And
See, that's a framework that we don't have currently in the United States of America. Is the precursor to getting on the Nazi train was that complete, I don't know, just embarrassment of the loss of World War I. We don't have that as, so it makes it even harder to understand how America could be in this position right now. But so yeah, that's an interesting thing, that there were a lot of myths, because Robert Klein, who the comedian, was also a history buff. We talked about the Holocaust, and that when Eisenhower got to Auschwitz, he said, get the journalists in here, get the film crews in here, because it's not going to be long before people are going to question this and say it never happened. And Eisenhower had the forethought to saying, let's get this documented before that happens. But still he did, and still people question it.
Well, I'm just going to interject that, of course, I have met a few people who are the Holocaust deniers. I mean, I've met, and ones that say, oh, no, there weren't 6 million that were exterminated. No, it was only probably about 100,000. Like what does that matter? Okay. Yeah, like what does that matter? But
number matters.
There are people that will absolutely stop you dead in your tracks with those kind of answers and look you straight in the face and say, oh, no, that never happened. That was all contrived. That was all put up. The Jews are promoting that story. Yada, 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 yada. Yeah. I mean, what do you do with people? What I do with people like that is just sort of listen and say, oh, well, and I back away. I mean, I can't engage with people like that.
But the Nazis were like meticulous note takers, though. I mean, they may not have kept the name of every single Jew that they killed, but I'm pretty sure that the names that they kept and the numbers they used to identify them probably will round up to around 6 million, right? It's not like.
Well, that's the irony in what I just said, because and I think my German friends would agree with me. The Germans are in love with statistics. They don't hardly get out of bed in the morning and have breakfast without documenting that. I mean, really, in some ways, the Nazis were their own worst enemies because they kept, records on everything.
Right.
And that's all been uncovered and it's all been brought to light. It's just like with East Germany, same thing. Now that East Germany's been opened up, they get into the Stasi file, the secret police agency. And there are people who lived in East Germany who are shocked that their lives were being trailed and documented for years. And they didn't think they were doing anything unusual. But yeah, that's a kind of a German thing, keep records.
I gotta change this out. I didn't know Stephen was bailing for a moment. Let me just change this a little. What do I got here? I don't have let's just go with this one. Yeah, that's better. Now, let me do this. There you go. This. All right, we're back to normal. Now Stephen will pop back in and make me go back to the old layout. Now, historical fiction, because you talked about the research you did. My biggest problem with historical fiction is I can't tell where it becomes fiction and where the real history separates from fiction. Why did you decide to write a novel rather than a nonfiction book about this?
Well, because I think that there are, very qualified historians. I think of Schirr's, Inside the Third Reich and all those kind of things. That kind of thing has been done very exhaustively and much better than I ever could. I mean, yeah, I've taught history and I'm interested in history and I love history, but I don't claim to be a qualified historian on the level of, say, William Scherer, who wrote Inside the Third Reich. So, I mean, that's been done. I was trying to do something else. I was kind of trying to tell this story from a German perspective on a personal level. And of course, I couldn't actually come out and quote Germans I knew by name and so forth. That would be totally improper. So I tried to put it in the framework of historical fiction and still get the idea across of telling the story from German perspective.
Do you understand my dilemma, though? Because I do read a lot. I've interviewed lots and lots of authors, and I often have this, especially with historical fiction, is this this dilemma of figuring out what is real and what's not real, and how do you make that clear to the reader who really is trying to get as much out of what the takeaway of the message about what we should be learning from history, but don't want to be confused about what's just made up in the author's mind, and how you make that clear. You understand that dilemma from the reader's perspective?
Yeah, I do. And when I talk about research that I've done, it's not just about events or battles or even personalities. If there was a personality that's a historical figure that's well known, I name him. And if I have to build a situation around his activities, I try to research it so exhaustively that if anybody wanted to cross-reference, they could validate what I wrote. So
now I have a question about with the fictitious stuff, the stuff that you created out of whole cloth. If your book is made into a movie and they decide to cut some of the fictitious stuff, is there like some stuff that you made up that is so you're so proud of that fictitious part that you're like, no, you have to put this part in the movie. I worked really hard on this imaginary scene.
That would be a good dilemma to have. I just said, well, from every author's perspective, that's a good dilemma. They're making a movie, and I don't have as much control over it as I want.
Yeah,
that's a good dilemma to have.
Yeah, I mean, you know the story of Margaret Mitchell in Gone with the Wind, don't you?
Everybody knows that one.
Yeah, well,
tell it for the people who don't. Tell it
he doesn't know.
It's one of the.
I have no idea.
What I was going to say is it's one of the movies that comes to mind that I find is as close to the novel as any I can think of offhand. I mean, she insisted on that being followed, her work. And she would, I guess, kind of made a nuisance of herself, from what I understand. And she insisted that it stay close to her story. I don't think that authors nowadays have that kind of leverage.
Right. The world has changed a great deal since 1939. So,
Yeah.
yeah, in the ways that we're talking about. Now, I'm not going to keep you much longer, but first, I have the link to the book of Amazon where you can buy the book in the description here, and it's scrolling across the bottom. The cover is there for you. See, it's called Brandenburg: A Story of Berlin by James Cloud. Now, is there an audio book out yet?
Yes, there is
Oh,
on
good.
both volumes, and it's narrated by a good friend of mine, a retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Briggs.
Wow, very cool. Because we live in a world, and not the world that you grew up in that where people actually read books. Now people listen to books far more often. It's kind of a very weird place for an author to be in. You write the book, but eventually you're gonna have to do an audio book, or nobody's gonna really.
And if Elon Musk has his way, somebody will just get a chip of your book and just has it inserted in their head.
Yeah,
That's probably going to be the route I'll take.
Yeah.
May I just make one comment in closing?
Sure.
What I'd like people to take away from this is I hope that I've been able to demonstrate that really, as I say, I don't think that any nation or society or group of people is immune, and you've alluded to this too, of going down a wrong road.
Right.
And so actually, if we stand in judgment of, say, the Germans, I think that we need to understand, or try to understand, a little bit more about how they got to that point. And that's one thing that I've tried to illustrate in my books, is how the Germans got into to the point that they were ready to listen to somebody like Hitler.
Exactly. This is what not. You know what? If I'm honest, I don't really care so much about that. I care more about how it pertains to my friends who I know were not just bad-minded people or evil people or ugly hearts. They had good hearts, and they still have good hearts. But I have a lot of friends who are hardcore jumping into this world of hatred and bigotry and all this stuff, and I'm like, how did this happen to you? I can't understand what happened to you in your life that made you this person, or was it always somewhere in your heart just begging to come out and you just need an excuse? This is what really intrigued me about human beings and us, the state of the world that we're in. So
But also, isn't it easy to see why it's happening? Because it's all just surface level hate. And so the pitch is that these people are going to take everything from you, and they never really give you any meat on the bone after that. It's just
Right.
like, oh, they're going to take. Then the hate is easy to.
Yeah.
Well, I think that one thing that we need to, if we're going to compare our situation to, say, something like Nazi Germany, we need to be aware of some of the parallels, and I think that some of the parallels are there. One of the things that I think that we have to be wary of is allowing ourselves, as long as we have a choice in the matter, is to be indoctrinated, because that's how dictators come to power. They just bury people with a barrage of a certain point of view, to the point that people lose the ability to think for themselves. And they take the easy route and they say, oh, well, yeah, what he says makes a lot of sense. So he must be right about this. He must be right about a lot of things.
Right.
And first thing you know, it compounds, and people find themselves locked into a situation where they not only can't, they're not willing to consider another point of view.
The only I agree with like 98% of what you said. My pushback is not that they've lost the ability to think for themselves. My viewpoint is that they never wanted to think for themselves.
Yeah, it's easier.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
easier not to think.
Sure, it's easier. I mean, I think most of us.
Yeah. Other than that, your paper gets an A. Other than that, your paper gets an A minus. So
I was going to say, I think most of us think back to our childhood, how easy it was. We resented it, but really, it was easier to be told what to do.
All right. If I can just ask you one more question, this is kind of a heavy one. It's a soapbox I've been on for a couple of weeks, more than a couple of weeks now. We're hearing a lot about what's going on in Israel, Palestine, and the word genocide is being thrown around a lot, and I have a big problem with people who just call like dirty war genocide compared to what Hitler did, which was an intentional genocide of thoughtful of wiping out of a race of people. And I think if we call every side that is losing a war genocide, every war where there is a very lopsided victory.
Yeah.
If we call that, if we're willing to call that genocide, we soften war to. We kind of want to make war civilized and an acceptable solution to resolving conflict,
Yeah.
and it keeps it around forever. And I don't know if I make that opinion clear, but there are a lot of people who get really angry about that. How can you not call it genocide when a whole group of people are getting wiped out? And I said, well, it's not genocide if nobody is planning it. It's just the byproduct of war. And if we want to keep war around forever, we just keep calling it genocide. Then we say, well, there are nice rules. We can play. We can have war that is a nice, clean war. And
China, well, like what China's doing to the Uyghurs, that is genocide because they're like,
let me get a response from Mr. Cloud.
Oh, I thought that question was to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
no. No, I agree with you. And I think that we need to keep a strong division between the word genocide and tragic outcome. Because, yes, the big thing that makes the Nazi story unique is this didn't just happen as a result of a conflict. I mean, Hitler, I don't say he was evil as a baby or even evil as a young man, perhaps. But I do think that as he began to be drawn into this anti-Semitism that was under the surface in Europe for a long time before he came along. But he played on that, and he used that as a point to win people over who had maybe subliminal anti-Semitic tendencies. And he amplified it and said, well, they're to blame for all of your problems. They're to blame for Germany losing the war. They're to blame for this and this and this. And people who are starving and standing in the bread line and are unhappy with life, they're willing to consider that. And first thing you know, they say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And pretty soon, oh yeah, I'm on board with that now. But the thing that makes it unique is that Hitler, as you indicated, he planned this out. He absolutely outlined it in his book, Mein Kampf. You can read it if you want to do the research. The plans for the so-called final solution were in place years before people started being sent to camps into the crematoriums.
Great insights. I appreciate you being here.
I'm sorry. There's a lot of his inspiration for what he did with the Jews came from what we were doing to the blacks in our country. That was like a blueprint for him.
Well, we can discuss that after James leaves. We're going to say goodbye to him now, and appreciate you being here.
No, I just got to meet him.
Don't make me mute you again.
I'm sorry, James. We're getting along so well, and he goes to ruins everything.
I just want to bring attention, if I could, excuse me, to my motto, which kind of sums up my whole attitude about this whole project. And it's on the covers of my books. I don't know if you can see it there. But I've developed a motto based on my belief that nobody is immune to inhumanity under certain circumstances. So my motto is, man's inhumanity to man belongs to no race and carries no passport.
Very good. Very good stuff. Well, I appreciate you being here. I wish you good luck with the book. I implore everybody to read the book. It sounds like there's important messages, important takeaway, and important, perspective on history of the last 100 years or so. And I appreciate you writing the book. I appreciate you coming here to talk about the book, and hope my audience can put down the silliness for a second, long enough to appreciate what we talked about here today and be interested in it. And that's
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thank you for being here. Have a great day, and bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye. James Cloud, folks. Let me do this back to not that. This one. Okay. Interesting stuff, right? I mean, I know people tune in for laughs and stuff like that. But every once in a while, it's good to get some really serious conversation about some really important issues, and I think we touched on some of them there. The idea, I'm just curious what you guys think about this. The idea that Hitler's this, I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind. Maybe there is. Maybe you guys doubt this. That at the end of his life, he was certainly evil, or at least capable of incredible evil. Now, the idea that was kind of built up over time in him, that's also like, how much bad stuff has to happen to you to make you that level of evil? You think about those things, or it's just me and my...
Maybe he had a dream that wasn't, maybe he had just a dream, and then evil people got a hold of him and said, we can help you get that dream. We'll just, all you have to do is kill a few million Jews. And he goes like, that's it, and I can have my dream. He was like, yeah. So like, maybe he was like a naive child.
It's pretty...
Rappler brings up, I'm sorry, Ron, I'll let you finish that point, but this point he's making is the one redeeming quality, the record keeping. I have a feeling their modern counterparts might have learned from that mistake, meaning these people aren't keeping records on purpose, which is...
Right. Trump does not use email. He does his plotting and scheming like a wink and a nod, mafia style.
Right.
And Hitler was a failed artist, so it all makes sense, really.
I heard one story that he got his resentment of the Jews because the doctor when his mother died, the doctor was a Jew. And that triggered his whole anti-Semitism. But before that, none of that makes sense to me. Like, how does that evil grow in a person?
The failed artist makes sense. He's a very insecure guy. He wasn't very tall. So, I mean, it's just a recipe for narcissism.
So it sounds like you're being a height bigot there a little bit, Ron.
Yeah, jerk.
Now you're going back to the Napoleonic theory.
Yeah, and plus, humans love killing each other. It's the one thing that we're great at: hurting each other and killing each other.
So it doesn't sound like you guys, at least Ron, it doesn't sound like you have a whole lot of hope for the future of humanity. If that's your real honest take on human nature, that we just love killing each other, then there really is no hope for us. We might as well just pull the plug on this experiment called Earth today. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
sometimes I think unplugging it and plugging it back in might help.
Now you sound like God just before the whole flood thing. Okay, it's I have faith in humanity, but not a lot. It's not like if it was like a ratio.
You can't say I have faith in humanity, but it's only like a sliver.
No, because I believe that, let's put it this way. I believe there's goodness in the world. I don't believe that goodness is going to be enough to save us. You have to be not just good, but you have to be actively good, and you have to be willing to do some really bad things in the name of goodness to get rid of all these evil fucks, and then cleanse your palate.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you believe it sounded like, I don't want to put words in your mouth because I do that a lot, but
and they taste awful.
Yeah,
try a little salt, my man.
That shot glass, I want to put that in your mouth and take a picture of it. Evil as a real as a external thing that people can act upon, or is evil a force within the universe that, for lack of a better word, possesses people?
If it's in the universe, it can't be evil. It's just energy. If it's in people, it's fucking evil.
And some of it is, opportunity too. Like, it's a crime of opportunity. You strike. It's just like where we're at now. We're just in that weird time in history where it is a big moment of change facing us. I mean, do you decide to go with the one guy, like the Trump way, which is just like some old racist back in the day shit that they can never acquire again without like a total deconstruction? Or you take the other older guy, it's like well, this is kind of the path we want to go. We just need someone a lot fucking younger to do it.
Our friend Gary Simmons, who has been on this program, it just has this quote on Twitter right now. Historians have a word for Germans who joined the Nazi Party, not because they hated Jews, but out of hope for restored patriotism and a sense of economic anxiety, or a hope to preserve their religious values, or dislike their opponents, or raw political opportunism, the convenience of ignorance or greed. That word is Nazi. Nobody cares about their motives anymore. I get it, man. And that comes back to this message from the book: is that no group of humans, no individual human is immune to this kind of stuff. And then we see this with and I hate that Mike is a good guy. He's one of these guys who I know has a good heart, but he dismisses every criticism of Trump as fake news, basically marching in goose step.
I've seen the commercial with the guy with the tour bus. Does Mike really know he has a good heart? Doesn't he need that little card-sized thing so he can put his fingers on it and measure his heart so you can see if it's a good heart?
I don't know what you're talking about, the guy with the tour bus.
Yeah, there's a little commercial with the guy with the tour bus. He has like a little credit card size thing. You put your fingers on it. It costs $79. Actually, it's on sale. Regularly, it's $99. You put your fingers on it, and it tells you if your heart is a good heart.
Never saw that come up. But I don't have television, so I wouldn't know. It's on television or on computer? And that's
no, it's on TV. It could be on computer. I don't.
So television. Television can read your pulse. I don't. You got like new smell-o-vision,
commercials on television.
Yeah.
Yeah, I discount anyone immediately if they're yelling fake news, because essentially you're just saying it's like, I don't want to believe what you're telling me, but because this whatever tells me, that's what I believe.
Right.
That's the dumbest stance you could ever take as a human.
Well, I'm certain that lots of Germans were thinking that. They had the same. Any criticism of Hitler was fake. You're just making that up because I don't want to hear that.
Well, for example, why can a company like Newsmax claim that they're a news organization when really they're just an entertainment news, because they cut their clips how they want. So that is fake news. That is a definition of fake news if you're cutting it to make your narrative.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna have to say goodbye to Govs right now. By the way, Red Hot Llama did show up.
Govs.